An introduction is given to the Satyanarayan Vrat Katha. And so, what does it say? Listen. After traveling through the three worlds, Yogiraj Narad, he was troubled by what he saw happening on the earth. And being troubled by what he saw happening on the earth, Yogiraj Narad could not wait to go back to the heavens. He went to the heavens and he bowed his head quickly to the feet of Bhagavan Vishnu. And he says, "Oh Lord Vishnu, there is great suffering on the earth." Yogiraj Narad, the celestial sage, Yogiraj Narad bowed his head to the feet of Bhagavan Vishnu. And he says, "Oh Lord Vishnu, I adore you, and with faith and with devotion, I am begging you, not on my behalf. I am begging you on behalf of all of those who are suffering. Tell me, what instruction can I give to them to eliminate, to erase their suffering?" Now listen to what he's asking. He's not saying that he wants to pray for them. He's saying, "Tell me so that I could teach them, so that they can pray for them." Who can pray for you? Who can pray for you? Yogiraj Narad says, "So I can teach them so that they can pray for themselves." The only person that could pray for you is you. Pray for you. Every year when we go out into the ocean, I say to Nigel, religiously, tell the Murti, talk to the Murti, tell him he's listening. Every year I say I'm not going in the water, and every year I end up in there. Every year I say I am not going to have any disaster. Look, I secured my foot with a shoe, but I got caught on my hand. Several places. 11 places. On the worst of the worst, I put a plaster. The others are open. Repaying the debt of my own karma. And so to all of us, we must repay the debt of our own karma, our own sin. Tonight, Yogiraj Narad asking, Bhagavan Vishnu says, "I will tell." And so Narad Muni prostrates the feet of Bhagavan Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, the Shank, the Chakra, the Gadda, the Parma, wearing the Tulsi Mala. Bhagavan Vishnu begins to tell, and he says, "Oh Narad Muni, go down on Mrityu Lok on the earth and tell them the only way that they could eliminate their suffering is by praying to me as Satyanarayan. Tell them they will gain moksha from their suffering. Not moksha from your existence, moksha from your suffering. Moksha means liberation. You'll be liberated out of your suffering if you pray to Bhagavan Satyanarayan. And so tell them they will get moksha from their suffering, great relief." And so Narad Muni goes on to ask, he says, "What day is a good day to perform Satyanarayan Katha?" What day is a good day? We've heard this before. What day is a good day? Ash, what day? Any day. What time is a good time? In the evening time. Where should it be performed? Under a holy tree, in the mandir, in your home, in your puja room. Any space that is available, sit and pray. He asked, who can perform worship to Bhagavan Vishnu? And Bhagavan Vishnu says, "Narad, anybody can pray to me." Tell the person next to you, "Hey, you could pray." Tell them. You think that you can't pray for yourself, but you are the best person to pray for you. And so Yogiraj Narad, he goes on to say, then what should be offered? And Bhagavan Vishnu says, offer Mohan Bhog. What is Mohan Bhog? What is Mohan Bhog? He says, offer bananas, offer churan, offer tulsi leaves. What is churan again? Grind rice. Tulsi leaves. offer to me a fruit, a flower, a drop of water, I will accept this. And I will eliminate your suffering, your trouble, your trials. He says, and after worship would have been done to me, then everybody must sit and eat together. Meals should be served. But not just that, singing and dancing and merriment should happen. Is a puja a joyous thing? Should a puja be a joyous thing? Do we enjoy puja? Is there any such thing as too much puja? Sasi? Too much puja? Maybe too much karhi. Maybe too much chana. But never too much puja. Never too much puja. And Narad Muni is very intelligent. Narad Muni looks at Bhagavan Vishnu and you know what he says to Lord Vishnu? He says, oh Lord Vishnu, has there ever been any being who performed this worship? Tell me the kahani. Tell me the story. Tell me, I want to hear about this being who performed the worship. And Bhagavan Vishnu begins to tell. What is he going to say? The Satyanarayana Vrat Katha is separated into adhyayas. Adhyay means chapters. Tonight I'm going to read the 5th adhyay, the last chapter of the Satyanarayana Katha. And what is he going to say? Sing with me, everybody. It says at one time, there lived a very famous being. He was the king and his name was Tungadwaj. Tungadwaj. Listen to the name. Tungadwaj. Ash, will you name your son that? Tungadwaj? He says depending on the meaning of the name. You see, though the names sound funny and strange and confusing, Tungadwaj, Dwaja. What is a Dwaj? What is Dwaj? What is Dwaj? Tungadwaj, this great king, he was a very generous being. And so he never allowed any of his subjects around him to suffer. Though we try to eliminate the suffering of many people around, they're never appreciative of our efforts. You know that? They take our efforts for granted. They never appreciate it. They're never patient. They always want to go ahead. And they don't want to wait. And sometimes while you are busy trying to help them, they're busy trying to do something else, creating more confusion. So the aid that you are trying to provide becomes of no use to them. Because you see, they're on a different path, different way. Tungadwaj, he loved all of his subjects. Is it possible to love everybody? Let's just pause for a minute. And I want you to be honest when yagya. Don't lie. Tell the truth. Is it possible to love everybody? Dave, is it possible to love everybody? See, that's why I ask him, because he'll tell the truth. Auntie Angie, is it possible to love everybody? Auntie Angie say, you see, sometimes when people say things to you, you have to take it with a pong of salt, not even a pinch. I listened to a conversation between you and somebody else. And you see, I overheard the conversation. And you see, the conversations are so good that it fit in so well. I listened to a being saying to you that when he sees you, he feels complete. It's like the tulsi in my parsad. But what you didn't know, Auntie Angie, is that we're doing Ganesh Puja and no tulsi is required. You see, sometimes things are said sarcastically and we take it, and because of the purity in our thinking and the way we are, we misjudge what is being said to us. Not everybody who laugh and smile with you like you. Not everybody who hug you up and say kuchi kuchi ku love you. Not everybody who say you the tulsi in the parsad really mean you the tulsi. Sometime before you see the parsad, you see the tulsi, yeah? And it could have many different interpretations. I'm not saying that was the interpretation. I'm just using the example. Tungadwaj, he showed respect, and so he loved all of his beings. But one day, the great king, he did what all other kings did for recreation. What do you do for recreation? Turn up all the volume on the radio. Huh? What do you do for recreation? Sleep. What do you do for recreation? Go to the beach. Go to the river. What do you do for recreation? Take a drive in the forest and go and look after the bees, Uncle Harry. Yeah? What do you do for recreation? Take a trip to Currap, and then to Point Fortin, and then to Princestown. I don't like that kind of recreation. I think that is frustration, not recreation. Huh? Tungadwaj, he went, and for recreation, what did he do? Listen, the Katha says. It says Tungadwaj went out in the forest to hunt. But as he went out into the forest to hunt, practicing his sport, Tungadwaj saw that there was Satyanarayan Katha happening. And Tungadwaj ignored the puja totally. Do you know long ago it was a tradition that when the old people were passing close to a mandir, wherever it will be, they will bow their head? Do you know it was a tradition long ago that when a funeral was passing, the old people would come outside and put their hand together and say a little prayer? When you hear a funeral passing, you close up the door and you say, I wish Yamraj passed straight. Because you're afraid you're dead too, huh? Tungadwaj, he ignored the puja totally. And Tungadwaj went close by where he could hear the mantras. And so he placed himself to rest on a tall tree. All of the beings in the puja, their mind was not on the puja. Their mind was on the king, who they could see not far away. Though we are here physically, where is our mind? Where is your mind? I had to go to work tomorrow. I had to get up early. I'm tired. Where is your mind? Tungadwaj, everybody's mind was on him. And as everybody's mind was on the great king, what will happen? As soon as the worship was done, they jumped up. And what will they do? Listen, it tells us. As soon as the worship was done, all of the beings, they jumped up and they took their parsad, and everybody was pleased, though, rushing to give their parsad to who? The king. Somebody ever offered you parsad and you say, me I want, now I have plenty. Have you ever said that before? I don't want no more, I have in the fridge and I have in the freezer, and them children don't eat that, me I want. Real rakshas behavior. God food, you don't want. You have too much parsad. That's why long ago you didn't get parsad to carry, you know. You got parsad to eat. And you see, when the mandir comes into being, we're not going to make parsad to carry. We're going to make parsad to have. When you go into the golden temple, they give you a little bit of parsad in your hand. And you know something? It's the best parsad you'll ever eat. You know why? Anything you get a little bit of tastes real good. Anything you get a pound of, after a few mouthfuls, it doesn't taste good anymore, isn't it? It doesn't taste good anymore. Tungadwaj, seeing the crowd around him, and all he had in his mind was rest and peacefulness, Tungadwaj shooed them away. And he says, go away from here. I don't want any parsad. I don't want it. Go away from here. You see, when I sit here, whoever sits at the Bedi will always bring the Panchamrit. Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen what I do with it? What do I do? You see, if I say no, it is a mahapap, a great sin. Because the Amrit is one of the greatest things that you can receive out of the worship. But then when I sit here, I'm not supposed to eat or drink, because that is a pap too. So if I don't receive it, it is a sin. And if I drink of it over here, in this seat that is called the Gaddi or the Asan, it is a sin. Then what should I do with it? Darshan do Ganesham Naat Mure Akiya Pyasi re. Darshan do Ganesham. I take it, I bow, and I wipe it in my hair. One lady said to me, I know you don't like milk, you know. I said, why? I see you wiping all the Panchamrit in your head. It is not that. That's the reason why. Out of respect, I can't say no. And out of respect for the seat, I can't drink here. So I do the respectful thing. I still receive the darshan of Bhagwan. Of course, if you know you're not going home to wash your hair, don't do that. Because your bed might turn into an ants patch. But respectfully, Tungadwaj shoot them away, and he said he did not want. You see, when the Chananamrit comes, never say, I don't drink that, I don't want. You see, when the parsad comes, and when anybody offers you parsad, whether what in your mind you have formulated you're going to do with it, never say, I don't want. No. Never do that. Everywhere I go to the puja, they say, carry an extra one now. Carry an extra one, you go meet somebody. Carry an extra one. I carry plenty extra. But there's some people I say, take one now. And you know what they say? Nobody doing that. They ain't like that. Tungadwaj, after he shooed them away, he went to sleep. And after he slept for a prolonged period of time, Tungadwaj jumped up from his sleep and he made his way back to his kingdom. But as he was making his way back to his kingdom, he saw everybody running everywhere, helter-skelter. And seeing them running, he wondered what was happening. And so seeing them running, what happens? Listen, it tells us. When he reached back to his kingdom, he saw that his entire kingdom was burnt to the ground, to zero, to nothing. I said in the car coming, I never liked the idea. I never liked the idea of rushing to press something with the heater before you leave home. Never. You know why? Why? You see, if you are doing it, then you might be more mindful and you might ensure. But you see, if you have guests and many people doing it, and then one person has to press everybody else's own and it is confusing, then chances are you might forget. And if you forget, what will happen? Disaster. That's why when you have a little free time, pull out the basket and iron the clothes. Don't have it roll up and chook up, and when you need it, then you go and pull out one piece and press it. And never have that kind of dalidhar thinking. That kind of... Sometimes you go in the basket with the thing roll up and you didn't even know you have some of the thing you have inside of it. When you see it, you say, hey, who one is this? Huh? You forget that you have it too. It must never be a culture. It must never be a tradition. It says, Tungadwaj saw that everything was burnt to zero. And Tungadwaj immediately, what will he do? It is a normal human reaction that when there is loss, disappointment, frustration, what will you do? What will you do? When there is a big disappointment, what will you do? Cry. Tungadwaj started to cry. Sometimes it is only human for us to I remember when my father died and I was a little child, I was crying. And my brother said to me, he said, hey, only girls just cry. I never forget that. And one of my aunts said to me, she said, hey, only real men just cry. Don't worry with him, you cry. I never forget that. See, because of the day the conversation was happening, I remember what was said. 30 years ago, I could remember. Tungadwaj, he started to cry. And as Tungadwaj started to cry, Tungadwaj started to reflect and he wondered, where did I go wrong? How much bad things did you do from morning till now? How much bad things did you do from morning till now? Let me change that to an easier, more identifiable question. How much bad things did you say from morning till now? Well, there are some people who could check and still have fingers, and there are some people who don't have enough fingers and toes and need to borrow a few people on. Huh? Tungadwaj started to wonder, where did I go wrong? And Tungadwaj remembered the Parsad. He's remembering on his own. Sometimes you have to remember on your, you have to wake up on your own by yourself. And as Tungadwaj remembered, what will he do? Tungadwaj, who had zero, nothing, he's deciding to worship Bhagwan Vishnu, Satyanarayana. You see, in the time when you have plenty, you forget God. But in the time when you have little, oh God. The mandir, can you imagine? This structure started, worship started here in this place, out in the open, in that corner. Then, under a tent with some pallet. You all know what's pallet? And cardboard over it. Then, we advanced. From that, we went on the seashore with the tent. Then, from the seashore, we got a floor over here. Part of it was cast. And we sat there. Now, we're sitting here. Last year, when we went out there to put the murti, there was no galvanized. It was open. It was an open structure. The first time I sat here, I sat on a stack of bricks. Can you all remember? On a whole stack of bricks. And they said to me, don't move too much. Huh? That brick will pinch you if you move too much. So don't go. Just sit quietly. How can I sit quietly? You know, I just have to do the little hunting. And now I'm sitting on a chair. But you see, just like in life, elevation has to happen. Growth has to happen. Progress has to happen. Elimination has to happen. Succession has to be planned. Different things have to happen. And so, Tungadwaj, he started to cry. And now Tungadwaj started to prepare to perform Satyanarayana Katha. What will he do? Tungadwaj went in search of bhik. What is bhik? What is bhik? The king is going in search of bhik. He is going to beg. You ever begged before? Hello, you ever begged before? You all never begged before? We're singing every day for the past few days. Pahi, pahi, oh pahi, pahi, Gajanena. We're begging. Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, oh Lord Ganesh. That's what we're saying. And to soften the heart of Lord Ganesh, Parvati Putra Gaja, you're the son of Mother Parvati. Pahi, pahi, forgive me, forgive me. That's what we're singing. Forgive me, forgive me. You're begging. Forgive me, Lord, forgive me. Tungatu had started to beg. If you have to beg to do a puja, what do you think you'll get? If you have to beg to have a party, which one do you think everybody will contribute faster to? You don't have to answer. Now you want to have prayers and the ghee is so expensive. Why you didn't have the prayers when the ghee was cheap? Huh? But when you go in the party, it's ghee them, you know. You're not thinking about anything and cost, and you have to get a new outfit and a new shoe and a new hairstyle and new nail. Huh? Tunggadwaj started to beg, the king started to beg. And with whatever little he received, Tunggadwaj decided to pray to Bhagwan Vishnu. I want to say this, and I'm going to say this with conviction. Puja and worship is not to impress God, but it is to connect to God. I read on one of the response or the comments on one of the lives that we only see one family sitting to do the puja. But you see, not everybody who have eyes see. Because everybody in the group is doing puja. Not only one family, everybody is doing the puja. Who will get a blessing? You sitting there, they sitting there, I'm sitting here, we all sitting. Who will get a blessing? Who will Bhagwan come to? Naresh not offering anything, but he's singing. And because he's singing, he might sing with so much of love that he might get more blessing than the person sitting in front of the murti. Robbie fix up everything. Not one evening he's sitting to do the puja. But when you're singing and you're offering and Robbie puts his hand together. And I'm not sure, but I think in his mind he's saying, I'm offering to you too. Who will get the blessing? I'll tell you a secret. I might get in trouble for telling you the secret, but all through the Navratri and COVID and everything, when you saw only one person praying, it was everybody praying. It was everybody with their urni and their mass sitting in front of their murti praying in the same place, the same room. We were all praying together. But you see, if we show everybody, that would have been a problem. And if we show one body, that is a problem. And if we show nobody, that would have been a problem too. Because you see, some people who have problems look for bigger problems. And they try to create unnecessary problems. And for that, all you have to do with grace, give them a clap. Let's give them a clap, everybody. With grace, give them a clap. Because you see, when you're interesting, you become an interest. When you're on top, you will always be the topic. And so you can't expect to be on top and not be criticized and condemned and insulted and talked about. And not everybody who talk about you talk because they mean well. They talk with the effort to try to tarnish and to bring down. But gossip and foolishness ends when it reaches to the ear of an intelligent person. So let us be intelligent when we listen. And let us make intelligent decisions. and formulate intelligent conclusions when we hear. Tungadwaj begins to pray. Tungadwaj has a little, he has begged for what he have. We have all begged for what God has blessed us with. Is that true? We have all begged. Boxer was praying and begging, I want a Benz, I want a Benz, I want a Benz. We begged, I want a nice car. And from wanting one, we wanted more than one, and we wanted and we wanted and we wanted, and God has been good to us, isn't it? But anytime you forget the goodness and the grace of Bhagwan, he has to give a little trouble. He has to put an obstacle. He has to put a challenge. He has to do something to remind you that he exists. And so Tungadwaj sat with little to pray. And as Tungadwaj sat with little to pray, what will happen? Something is about to happen. Long ago when you got the parsad in a brown bag. You all remember? The brown bag only have enough parsad to cover the surface of the base of the bag. Tinsel. Some soaked chana, some grind rice, and a chunky piece of root. You all remember? A grape cut in half, a prune, a little piece of apple, and a little less than a third of a chiquito fig. You all remember that? That's what you got as the parsad. Well, I want to tell you, Mary Pitri Paksh from Tungadwaj is praying with little. What do we have to offer to impress God? Nish, what do we have to offer to impress God? You see, we do things, but do we do it with pride and with class and with... You make the rote and it come out like fry bake. Sometimes it come out like rock cake. Because you're doing it because you have to, not because you want to. Cindy said, when you make the road, it come out so good. But it is not that I'm making it because I have to. I'm making it because I want to. And I'm putting my everything in it. I'm not just putting flour and they will tell you, I want to put my own hand. I want to be a part of it. And that's where the blessing lies, in being a part of it. Devotion. And so Tungadwaj praying. What happens? Listen, the Gatha tells us. There was prasad, but there was no bhog, there was no food. And so because there was no food, Tungadwaj and all of those who are participating in the puja, they were forced to fast. There was nothing to eat, and so they were forced to fast. Ever had money but nothing selling to eat? What will you do? Ever have plenty things selling to eat and have no money? What will you do? The card just wouldn't go through. It not cooperating. Decline. And the people looking at you, you know you have no money and you're swiping. And then you have to do a little chi-chi. You have to wrongs up from everybody. Let me a little thing now. Let me a little thing. Tungadwaj, everybody who was there, they were forced to fast. And so as they were forced to fast, what will happen? But Tungadwaj and all of the beings closed their eyes to pray. Tungadwaj recognized that the kingdom and everything else was intact. And so it was just like an illusion happening, where Bhagwan Vishnu was trying to teach Tungadwaj that when the time comes to receive that which has been offered in worship, you must do it with grace. You must not disrespect not even the prasad that has been offered in puja. You must not disrespect that. When you have a puja at home and it comes to prasad, you're in real trouble, you know. A month after, you're pulling it out from your couch, and because people put prasad everywhere. Long ago, you could not lose the key to your brain to throw down prasad on the ground. much less to mash it. I am very passionate about Parsad because I know what scripture says. There are many people, you'll ask Ishwar, he'll tell you. He can't be on his phone when there is Parsad. I take away the phone. He cannot even talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. You're turning the pot. Do that. After that, we'll do anything else. He will never knock the pot. Brang, brang, brang. But you see, it is the culture. He knows the culture. And that's how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to teach the positive, good culture. But not everybody is appreciative of that. People get offended when you tell them. They become... Tungadwaj, when he opened his eyes, he recognized that everything was there, intact. And it was just like an illusion had happened. Everything is in your right in front of you. Just to open your eye and see, everything is right there. And as Tungadwaj saw everything there, Tungadwaj made a vow that he will worship Bhagwan Vishnu faithfully. Tonight I'm going to ask a question. Tungadwaj is reincarnated from the Satyanarayana Katha, and his name is mentioned in the Ramayana. Who is Tungadwaj reincarnated as? I'm just asking for a friend. Tungadwaj is reincarnated in the Ramayana. And the characters, the beings who are mentioned in the text, the same beings have taken their plane in the other texts because of their reincarnation and their manifestations. Who is Tungadwaj? Because of the party of Tungadwaj and the relationship that he shared with Bhagwan Vishnu as Satyanarayana, who will be Tungadwaj? Make a guess. In the Ramayana. Naresh, who will be Tungadwaj? Papa has been doing Satyanarayana Katha for 60 something years, is it? His father. Who is Tungadwaj in the Ramayana? I can't hear you. Who? Narad? Narayan? Narayan is Lord Vishnu. Narayan Prasad is somebody else. No. Tungadwaj in the Ramayana is that boatman whose name is Kevat, who will have the opportunity to take Bhagwan across the river. Kevat who denies Sri Ram the opportunity to get on the boat, because Kevat heard that when Sri Ram took his foot and touched the stone turned into a lady. And he did not want Rama to touch his boat with the foot, because next thing you know, the boat turned into a lady. He had a wife already. You see, the lessons to be taught in the Katha are lessons that are very applicable to the day that we live in. Kevat had a wife already and he did not want another lady. And Kevat was paranoid because the boat was his living. This was his survival. And Kevat did not want Rama to get on the boat. Instead, Kevat plotted all kind of thing in his mind, and he said, you know, Rama, in order for you to go on the boat, I have to wash your foot first. I can't let your foot touch my boat. I have to wash your foot first to make sure that the thali that you're putting your foot in doesn't turn into a lady. Because if my boat turns into a lady, I am in real trouble. See how applicable it is to the day that we live in? Kevat, the boatman, in his previous existence, his name was Tungadwaj. Narad Muni asked, he says, oh Bhagwan Vishnu, tell me about some of the beings who worshipped you. I want to know. And Bhagavan Vishnu says, some of the beings that worshipped me was Sudama. In the Bhagavad, Sudama. He lived his whole life serving me as Krishna. Sudama. Raja Dasrat in the Ramayana. He worshipped me, for he belonged to the Surya dynasty. He worshipped me, Narayan, as his son, Surya. Who again? King Tungadwaj, he came as Kevat. Who again? Even other great kings, they worship me. And they specify the name of the kings. But if I tell you the name, it is going to confuse you. And hearing this, what will happen? Narad Muni comes down on the earth. He has heard the Katha. And Narad Muni has made a conscious effort to pray to Satyanarayan, to do Satyanarayan Puja.